So now that we have installed our coding IDE, which is Visual Studio Code, right? And we have also installed Python. So now it's time to write our first code, okay? So let's go through this again. And we have installed our Visual Studio Code. So now how to write your first code, okay? Good. So to do that, let's first create our folder where we will be working in. Okay, let's create our folder there, and we're going to call it Python dash tutorials. Okay, good. Python tutorials. Open that folder, and then inside that folder, let's open Visual Studio Code from within this folder, right? So going to right click, right, show more options, and open with, sorry about that, right click and open with code, right, open it with Visual Studio Code. So now our Visual Studio Code is open, right? We are inside the Python tutorials folder, right? Let's close this. And what are our instructions saying here? Okay. Number one, how to write your first code. Create a folder and open that folder in Visual Studio Code. Check, we've done that. Once VS Code is open, now you can create your first project file, okay? And name it myproject.py, okay? So this is what we're going to do. But from here, from the Python tutorials folder, going to click on this new file icon, and we're going to name the file myproject.py with the py extension for Python. Now, mind you, click enter. Mind you, it's my dash project, right? So when you are naming your project files, it's important to not add any spaces in between the project file names, okay? But if your project file has two words, you can join them by adding a dash or an underscore, right? Good. Now it says here, let me just, okay, right, so now let's write our first code, okay? But before that, if you can go back to your my Python tutorials folder, you'll see that the file that we created in Visual Studio Code has now popped up here automatically, right? Good. So let's write our first code, okay? We're going to write a hello world to print hello world, okay, as our first code. So we're going to say print hello world, okay, print hello world, right? So now notice, print, we are telling it to print whatever is inside the open brackets, I mean the brackets and the quotation marks, okay? We're telling it to print this string of hello world, right? Now, Control S to save, and click on this play button to run the Python file, which will print hello world, okay? Run that. It will open a terminal at the bottom here, and it runs our Python script, which prints out hello world, okay? Good. So now let me just close this. You will notice that in my code I put in double quotes, right? If you want, you can put in single quotes, okay? You can put in single quotes. The code will still work. It's the same thing. But you need to be aware of something like this, right? If I put in single quotes there, my string should not include single quotes, okay? What do I mean? I mean, if I put in single quotes there, inside there, right? And my code is, my string, I mean, is you are a good programmer, right? You see now, the word you are has a single quote as well there, which is not the right syntax that we need to use, okay? Because now this single quote will now be closed with this one and not this one, okay? So now the string is no longer valid, okay? So what do we need to do in this kind of a scenario? Here we need to use double quotes, and at the end we need to use what? Double quotes, okay? So that this single quote does not get mistaken with the closing quote of this program, okay? But since we're using double quotes here, our string should not have double quotes as well, okay? He said, and I quote, can I put that there? I am a good programmer, close quote. You see now that this also gives us an error, which is the wrong syntax, okay? Now in this regard, okay, we need to use single quotes here. We need to use single quotes if we want to add double quotes within our string, okay? So that's a good pointer, and if I save this and run the program will run well. He said, and I quote, I am a good programmer, close quote, okay? That's good practice.